We're in Rosen section 8.1, applications of recurrence relations, and we're talking about the number of ways to parenthesize a product of n plus 1 numbers. And we can characterize that recursively, and we're going to step through the first few sizes of products, and that relation is given by Cn is equal to the sum as k goes from 0 to n minus 1 of ck times ck, or c, excuse me, c to the n minus k minus 1. And you can see how this will build up as we step through the different numbers of products we want to parenthesize. At first, we have two basis cases for parenthesizing a product of one number. Well, there's only one way to do that. There is no parentheses, so C0 is equal to 1. And the number of ways to parenthesize a product of two numbers, there's only one way to do that. So C0 is equal, C1 is equal to 1. And now for C2, we've got, remember it's n plus 1 numbers, so x0 times x1 times x2. There's two ways to parenthesize that. I can parenthesize the first two in the product, or I can parenthesize the second two in the product. So C2 equals 2, but we can also look at this recursively, because on the left side, that first parenthetical looks like a C1, and the outside the parenthetical looks like a C0, and we have an OR here, which is like a plus. And then this X0 looks like C0, and this right side parentheses on the second one looks like a C1. So we get 1 times 1 plus 1 times 1 equals 2, which is C2. All right, let's look at C3. It's the number of ways to parenthesize the product of four numbers. And that's this case right here, x0 times x1 times x2 times x3. And the upper level parentheses, there's three ways to do that. We can parenthesize the first three and leave the fourth one outside. We can parenthesize the first two and then parenthesize the second two. Or we can parenthesize the last three. And now we can look at this recursively, because whenever we have 3 inside the parentheses, that looks like C2. And this one by itself looks like C0. And these two parenthesized next to each other look like C1 times C1. And then the last case, now we could do the last three, that looks like C0 times C2. And that gives me 2 times 1 plus 1 times 1 plus 1 times 2, which is 5, and that is C3. Okay, now let's do one more, and that's going to be the number of ways we can parenthesize a product of 5 numbers. And so we'll start as many as we can on the first side. We'll do 4 and then 1. For the first possibility. Then we'll do 3 and then 2 for the next possibility, and then 2 and then 3 for the third possibility at the highest level, and then 1 and then 4 for the fourth possibility at this highest level. And now let's go back and consider how these look like earlier parts of the problem. This 4 inside the parentheses looks like C3. So we have C3, and that looks like C0. Now this one with 3 inside the parentheses looks like C2, and that looks like C1, and this looks like C1, and this looks like C2, and that looks like C0 times C3. Now we can substitute 5 times 1 plus 2 times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus 1 times 5 equals 14, and that is C4. And that's how we build up from the basis case to find out the number of ways to parenthesize a product of n plus 1 terms by calculating the product or the value of Cn.